Hi, everyone. It's Jane Rachel again, and I'm back with Lauren, a sophomore at Northeastern, who's telling about us about her experience with POTS. So, Lauren, when we left off, we were talking about how difficult it was for you and your family dealing with this undiagnosed illness. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were finally able to get a diagnosis, and maybe even like how many doctors did you have to go through first before you got the diagnosis?
So I went to a lot of doctors first, and mainly just specialists for various things that I was having. So I would go to an orthopedist for the joint pain, and I would go to a neurologist for the migraines, and I would go to, a hip specialist for the hip pain. But none of them were looking at the full picture, and none of them were saying like, "Oh, she's also been to all of these other doctors this year. Maybe we should look into why she's had to go to so many places."
Yep.
Um, and so it wasn't until I was at the end of my sophomore year of high school and I started having these really bad dizzy spells that I thought was caused by taking a Xanax. Because the first one that I had, and I remember it really vividly, I'd gotten up that morning, and like many other mornings before, I thought that I was having an anxiety attack, and my psychiatrist had just prescribed Xanax for me. So I thought that I would try it. And I woke up and I just felt like I was on a boat and I couldn't stop moving.
Ugh,
Um,
that's an awful feeling.
yeah, and then it went away a little bit, but it really never got better. And I was having these dizzy spells all the time after that, but I'd only taken one Xanax, so I knew that it couldn't just be that. Um, and then I went to my pediatrician to see what was causing this and maybe see if they could send me to somebody else. And they said that it could be vertigo or it could be my heart. And my family has a history of heart disease. So they said, I don't think it is your heart, but let's get you just like a baseline checkup with a cardiologist because it wouldn't hurt. And she was the one who diagnosed me. And
Wow.
she knew it immediately. I came in, they took my blood pressure, which I assume is what they do always. Um, and the minute she walked in, she didn't even say hello. She said, "You have POTS."
Oh my gosh. How did that feel after all these years of not
It felt
knowing?
so strange. And like, it was the first time I heard a diagnosis, and I was like, yes, I agree. Because I've been diagnosed with anxiety, and I was like, I really don't feel like that's what I have. I look at the symptoms for an anxiety attack, and I don't feel like that's what I'm having. Um, for the musculoskeletal pain syndrome, I was like, that doesn't really feel like that's it either. But I had known someone in one of my friends from high school had POTS as well, and I had heard her talk about her experience with it.
Wow.
And so then when the doctor came in and was like, "You have POTS," it just clicked, and I was like, that must be it.
What made her decide that? Just your blood pressure, or like what kind of test did she do to figure that out?
So the baseline diagnosis for POTS is like the baseline criteria, I guess they would call it, is that your heart rate goes up by 30 beats per minute when you go from sitting to standing. And so what they do is they'll take your blood pressure laying down and then sitting up and then standing up. And if it drops and your heart rate's going up at the same time, that means that you have POTS.
And no one ever did that test on you before in all of those years that you.
No, and I've been saying for ages now that I think it'd be really great if they incorporated that type of blood pressure check into every pediatric checkup that they do. Because for so many years, I went, every year you go to your pediatrician, you get your checkup, and that's just what you do when you're a kid. And I would go and they would say, "So, have you had any other medical problems this year?" And I would say, "Yes, I've had so many problems. I've seen this many doctors, and nothing's getting better." And they would just say that that was too bad. And they never
I,
tried to give me an answer or a medication or anything to help me with it.
that's
But if,
awful.
but if 5 years earlier they had been checking my blood pressure like that, they would have seen it.
Did
And
you
they
go
might,
back and tell any of them that about the diagnosis later? Or?
well, so it's actually really funny. So when I went to the pediatrician for my dizziness that I was having, I said, she noticed that my blood pressure was so low that she had trouble finding it.
Wow.
It took a lot of tries to find my blood pressure. I still, like, people still have a lot of trouble finding my blood pressure now. And then I came back a few weeks after I received this diagnosis because I needed them to sign off on some medical form for camp or something. And we said to her, "Oh, that dizziness, we went to that cardiologist that you recommended, and they said that it was POTS." And she said, "Oh, I diagnosed you with that." And we said, "No, you didn't. You didn't say that." And she was like, yes, I did. I told you to start drinking 2 liters of Gatorade a day. And I was like, well, the cardiologist told me that if I drink 2 liters of Gatorade every day, my teeth are going to fall out.
Oh my gosh.
And you never once used the word POTS ever. And she sent me to this ear physical therapist thing where they like move the ear crystals around. So it's like, no, you didn't.
You know, it's okay. I mean, at least in my experiences, doctors don't know everything, but I can't stand that. They won't say they're sorry, or they won't say, I don't know. And they don't, in my opinion, you know, I don't want to say bad about all doctors because I've been to many wonderful doctors, but I do feel that, you know, they frequently don't want to admit they're wrong or that they don't know something.
Yeah, and when we left that day, I went to my mom and I said, I am never coming back here.
I mean,
and we found a new pediatrician. I was like, I already didn't like that doctor. I was like, I'm never coming back.
Good for you, because it's really important to find a doctor who will listen to you and that you like and feel comfortable with. So I imagine that this diagnosis must have changed your entire life. And why don't we take a break and we'll talk about that next.